This evening, we're welcoming Angie. Now, you know Angie. She's been meditating for 3 decades. She's an adult educator and trainer, and she's a student and teacher of Raj Yoga meditation, which is what we teach from the Brahma Kumaris Center here. You'll be familiar with Angie and her partner Larry, who front quite a few of the programs that we have here, the weekend residential ones and the day programs, and someone who is very familiar with the basic methods of meditating the Brahma Kumaris Raj Yoga style, which is about connections and relationships. So very deep personal self-development methods. So tonight she's going to talk about, she's called it Fulfilling My Promise, very appropriate for the new year. And so let's all enjoy the company. And then at the end of that, there'll be time for your contributions, your comments, your questions, and we'd love to hear from you.
So good evening, everybody, and it's so good to see you all, and a very warm and happy new year to everybody. And tonight, as Jackie mentioned, we're going to explore fulfilling a promise. And for many of us, this is the time of year where we will make New Year's resolutions, we'll make plans for the year ahead. And so really that's what I thought it was a good topic to explore, and particularly given the year that's been, the 2020. So using this word promise, and if you were to Google the word promise, it means two things. So it means a declaration that I will do something. But the other meaning of promise is potential excellence. So we're going to look at it from both angles tonight. So the declaration that I will do something, but also the potential excellence, or potential for excellence, if you like. So we're going to explore in that way. And so thinking of the new year and making resolutions for the new year, really it's such an important thing to do before I start, before I set out, to have a very clear idea of where I've come from and where I've come to, so that moving forward, I'm moving forward from a position, a known position, where I am at the moment, where I'm my starting point, if you like. So it's a very good thing to do to really get a good sense of that. A very good thing to do is to do some reflection. And I know that for most of you who will be listening and watching tonight, reflection will be something that you're very familiar with, because if you've been in contact with the Brahma Kumaris for a while, we talk about reflection a lot, actually. And when we think of reflection, what do we mean? You could look at it in two different ways, and probably good to do that, actually, that we can reflect in a worldly way, about our worldly achievements, our material gain. And that's important. But we can also reflect in a spiritual way. And, as a spiritual gathering, as a spiritual group, I guess that's probably our main focus. But sometimes there'll be a certain flowing together of the two. And what do we mean by a spiritual reflection? I guess you could say from a spiritual perspective that it's about the betterment of the inner self. So when I'm reflecting in a spiritual way, I'm looking inside myself and to see what's going on in there. When I'm reflecting on my worldly achievements, often they'll be external to me. It may be to do with my career. It may be to do with things that I've accumulated or accomplished. But spiritually, it'll be the inner work. What's the inner workings of myself, and of course, that shows on the outside too. Sometimes more than we realise. So you might be thinking at this time, well, it's an interesting topic, but 2020 was a bit of a write-off. And, I've heard many people say this, that, it seems like 2020 was the year, the horror year, the year where, everything came to a standstill. But actually, think of it in this way, that 2020 was a year like we haven't experienced, but we're all here to tell the tale. We've all got through 2020, and now here we all are together, and with the opportunity to talk about it and to move forward. And so really, I think it's fair to say that we achieved a lot just by getting through it. Each and every one of us has achieved an awful lot by just getting through last year. So tonight, I want to do a couple of things. And the first thing we're going to do is, and it'll be some personal work. Can I suggest, if you don't already have, it might be a good idea to have something to write on, to pen and paper, to make a couple of notes for yourself. Because some of the things that we'll talk about tonight, you might find you want to take away and do some more work on after tonight's session's finished. So grab yourself a pen and something to write on. And I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And after each of the questions, there'll be a little bit of time just to think about it and maybe just make a couple of notes for yourself. We're not asking you to share this stuff. It is personal stuff, but it's good to think about these questions, and these are reflection questions. So the first question is all about achievement, but we're looking at it in the 2 aspects. So I can take it from the angle of my worldly achievement, what I've achieved in the physical world, or I can look at it from my spiritual achievement, so my inner self, or it might be a combination of the 2, or it may be some worldly, some spiritual. So the first question is about what have I achieved? And here's some examples, just if you're thinking, what does this mean? It might be, in a worldly way, during 2020, I might have learned to speak another language. So that may be an achievement, that I learned to speak a second language, or a third or a fourth language. And maybe from a spiritual perspective, what did I achieve? Maybe I was able to learn meditation. I was able to start meditating. And maybe my achievement was one of being able to meditate. So just for a few moments now, reflect, what did I achieve in 2020? It doesn't need to be a great long list. 1 or 2 things is plenty. So one thing is what we've achieved. And the second question is, what did I learn last year? What did I learn? And in a worldly way, it might be something very practical. I might have learned a very practical skill, or it might be something really creative. I might have learnt to paint, for example. In lockdown, I might have used my time in that way. In lockdown time, one of the things that I spent a little bit of time every day improving was my keyboard skills, my piano, not keyboard on the computer, but my piano skills. And that was something that was really very satisfying, actually. Still a long way to go, but I've certainly ended the year more accomplished than I started. So it may be a worldly thing, a new skill that I learned. It may be something that I learned in a spiritual sense. And for example, it may be that I learnt how to become calm in difficult situations. So these are just examples, of course, but let's take a moment now and think about, what did I learn in 2020? And the third of the three questions, what did I let go in 2020? And for many of us, with all the changing circumstances in which we found ourselves, it may have been something I had no choice but to let go. So, for example, it may be that I had a coffee routine, that I would go out and get a coffee every morning, and with lockdown, I wasn't able to do that. So my routine, I had to let go of that coffee routine, for example. But it also could have been something spiritual, because there was just so much change in a short space of time, and so many things that were outside of our control. So maybe I was able to let go of some of the worry and anxiety that change can bring. It may have been something like that. So take a moment now on this third question and think what you may have let go in 2020. So what did I achieve? What did I learn? What did I let go? These three questions are really good questions. They're good questions to ask when I'm reflecting and I'm about to start to set new goals. They're good review questions anytime, actually. And it's a very worthwhile thing to do a reflection, a review, if you like, when I'm setting out to set some new goals, because it allows me, as I said before, it allows me to see where I am at the moment. It allows me to see where I've been, what the journey has been that's brought me to this point. And I can see clearly what's been going on, and certainly what the current position is, so that I can move forward from there. Very important to know where I am at the moment when I'm goal setting. So that said, and that done, the little review activity that we've just done, and there was only a short time, so this might be something you want to go away and work on more after we've finished. The next part is to make the promise. So when I'm making a promise or a resolution, whatever word you choose for this, it's so important to make a promise that's based on what's important to me. It's not what what's important to my partner or my boss or my friend or my next door neighbor. It's what's important to me and what's really important to me, because we all have things in our life that have importance to us. But when I think of making a promise, and a really an important promise, a promise that's going to create really positive change in my life, what happens with a promise is once I set out to do it, I'm promising to do one of two things. I'm either promising to do something or to stop doing something. So it's going to create a big change in my life. So if it's not important to me, it's going to be really hard to commit to it, to really commit to it. So, when we're making promises, it's so important to do it for the right reason. I'm doing it for myself. And this isn't selfish, because other people may also really benefit when I do the thing that I'm going to do, but it has to be for me. And the other aspect of the importance to me is to understand that at the root of my promise, there will be core qualities. We all have these core qualities. If you've been hanging around with Brahma Kumaris for a while, you know them. And we all have these core qualities. There's three main ones that I'm mentioning here: peace and happiness and love. Think of these core qualities. And another way to look at these core qualities is you could say that these actually are our potential for excellence. Remember, right at the beginning, we mentioned about a definition of promise as potential for excellence. So think of these three essential core qualities that we all have, and we all want more of. We all want peace. We all want to be happy. And we all want love in our life. They're essential to our well-being, actually. So that's an important thing. When I'm setting a goal, when I'm making a promise, does it line up to the things that are most important to me? And there's a little exercise you can do to check this, because sometimes we'll feel compelled to make promises that actually don't line up with our core qualities or our core values. And so it's sort of like we set ourselves up to fail. So it's very good to check when I'm making a promise to myself, does it line up to the things that are important? And the important things will line up with the core qualities. So, in Greek history, there was a man by the name of Socrates. And Socrates, there's a line of questioning that's named after Socrates. It's called Socratic questioning. And Socratic questioning is a form of probing questioning. And for anybody who's worked in a line of work where you have to get information from people, you may be familiar with this. But Socratic questioning we can use on ourselves, and it's probing. So to probe myself, and to do this when I'm goal setting is a really important thing to do. And I find I do it myself. I find it's really worthwhile because it allows me to really get to the root of what I'm setting out to do, and to find out whether it really lines up with what I really want, or if I'm somehow off the mark. So we can start, and we will have a chance to write a promise, but we'll just do a little bit of preparation work for that first. So the question is why? Why? So let's take an example. So I might make a promise to myself that in 2021, I'm going to exercise. And I ask myself, why? Why are you going to exercise? And it may be that I have a health problem, and so I'm going to exercise to help my health problem, or a potential health problem. So I'm going to exercise to help that health problem. But why? Why do I want to do that? And going a little bit deeper, it'll go deeper than just the health problem, to what that represents for me and what that means for me. That if maybe it'll be that if I haven't got my health, then I can't live the lifestyle that I'd like to live, and I'll be limited in some way of doing the things that I want to do. Well, why is that important to me? Because I like the lifestyle that I live. It makes me happy. So can you see how that's drilled down to one of those core qualities? And another thing might be, when we're talking about something like exercise, it may drill down to love, in the way that I'm exercising. When I exercise, I feel better about myself. And so when I feel better about myself, when I feel good about myself, that it's actually speaking to love for myself, because we all want to feel good about ourselves. We all want to love ourselves. And I don't mean that in a selfish way or a narcissistic way, but to love ourselves, to have respect, to have regard for ourselves. So I'm exercising. So my promise is for exercise, but you can see that on a deep level, it's speaking to the core qualities of happiness and love. So it's important to me at a deep level. It has some meaning for me. And these questions, Socratic questions, these probing questions, if I ask them of myself, it'll really help to weed out the unhelpful goals, because sometimes we'll set goals that aren't for us, that we're setting a goal in order to impress someone else or get somebody else's approval, for example. And really, it's not speaking to my deepest happiness. So if I ask myself these questions and give myself honest answers, then I can really line up my own values. And there's a lot of power in that. It's going to help me make good choices. So this is a suggestion to ask these why questions and keep asking until you get to the root of the matter. And if you get to anything else at the root of the matter, then these core qualities, then you might want to review the goal. And sometimes it's not so clear though, because I'm going to tell you a little secret about me. And I know Larry's listening in another room and he'll be laughing to himself, because we've been married for 32 years. So he knew me before I became a Brahmin, and he knows me now. So he knows the story behind me. And I can tell you that I was meditating before I came to the Brahma Kumaris, but I was a really angry person. And it didn't always show on the outside, but it certainly was very prevalent and apparent to me on the inside. And I'm sure it did actually show on the outside. And what I was angry about was I was angry because things were out of my control. I was angry that things happened in my life and situations came that weren't to my liking. And I was angry that people did things that I didn't like. And I was sometimes angry because I'd done things that I didn't like. There'd be memories of things that I'd done that I didn't like, and that would make me angry at myself. And sometimes there would be characteristics that would come up in me that I didn't like too, and that would make me angry too. So there was anger about lots of things, actually. There was resentment when things didn't go right. And I'm not terribly proud to say any of that, but it's important to know yourself. And so when I came to Brahma Kumaris, I started to hear about, you know, the meditation practice, working on yourself, developing some spiritual skills and tools that you could use to change yourself. And I remember a couple of years after starting this practice, on a visit to India, and you may know that we will tend to go to India every year. Of course, we haven't been able to do it in this last year, but we'll go and spend a little bit of time in India each year at our headquarters. And I was at headquarters, and there was a big meeting. And when I say a big meeting, there would have been probably over 20,000 people at this meeting. And we were instructed in this meeting to overcome our anger and finish our anger. And it was really interesting for me because it was as if I was the only one in the room. It was as if it was just for me what was being said. And so I thought, well, that's great. Okay, I've got a very clear direction now. I've been instructed to do that, and so I will. And I thought, well, why do I want to do this? And really, I can tell you, the only thing I could see, the only benefit I could see for me at that time in giving up the anger was I was so tired of feeling the way I was feeling. I was so sick of feeling resentment and feeling criticism for other people and criticism for myself. I was so tired of feeling that way. And I just wanted to feel better. And that was all I could see. I couldn't see peace. I couldn't see love. And I couldn't see happiness at that time. I could just see that I wanted to feel better. And actually, that was enough. So I sort of knew ultimately that it might lead to those things, but I couldn't really see it clearly for myself at that time. And I couldn't actually see it ever really happening to that extent, but I could see that I might be able to start feeling better about myself. So I mention that because when we're setting goals, sometimes we'll set our sights too high to something that actually isn't immediately achievable, that might take some time to get to. And you've got to be careful there because you can set your sights to a point where actually you set yourself up to fail. So it's better, and actually that example that I used was quite good at that time because I wasn't setting myself up to be completely happy because I certainly would have failed, but I was setting myself up just to feel better. And actually it was achievable. So you now know the route of where you can get to. You now know the secrets of this, that you're aiming for peace, happiness, love, these core qualities. Ultimately, you'll get there. But the short term, as long as it's lining up in that direction, it's okay. So I need to ask myself a question when I'm setting the goals. And it's really about what result I'm going to attain. Is it a temporary result? So, for example, it may be that my goal is to make lots of money. And I know some people who made lots of money in the shutdown last year because they didn't have anything to go out and spend it on. I know a couple of people who saved enough money for a house deposit last year because they were able to save so much money. So they made lots of money and they've got something really worthwhile that they're going to use that money for. It may be that I'm saving money for a holiday or it may be something else. So it's a good question to ask myself, is what I'm aiming for a temporary attainment, or is it something that's going to be more lasting? And if it's a spiritual aim, it'll tend to be more lasting. It's not to say that we shouldn't plan in the world. We need to do that. It's good to save money. It's good to do those things. So I'm not saying they're wrong at all, but it's good to be aware, is this for a temporary gain or for a long-term gain? Spiritual investment, if you like, will tend to be for a long-term gain. And, I mentioned this meeting that where I was in India, where anger was spoken about many years ago. But, for Brahmins, New Year's a very special time for us. And we really do tend to set goals. And New Year's Eve's a special time for us. And there was a meeting this year, and Brahmins from all around the world were at that meeting, not in person, but we were all there virtually. We all logged into this meeting. And we were given another message on New Year's Eve this year, or the year's just gone, 31st of December. And as I got that message about anger, all those years ago, the message this time was about contentment. And it was I felt a very profound message to be aiming for contentment in 2021. And it got me thinking a lot. In the last few days, I've really been, if you like, churning in my mind what it means to be content. And I just want to share a couple of things with you. I hope it may be a little bit helpful for you setting your own goals, because contentment really, I feel, does line up with these core qualities. And when I'm content, I will feel fulfilled, I will feel satisfied, I will be complete. So to be content is all of those things: to be fulfilled, satisfied, complete, but it also aligns with these core qualities. And let's just look at it. Peace, peace as a core quality. And we all want a peaceful life. Every one of us wants a peaceful life. And it's good to have excitement, but we don't want upheaval all the time. So how to use peace for contentment? And with peace, if I have a calm, strong core of my being, a calm, strong center, that will help me to be peaceful in all situations, because situations will come and go. And rather than getting angry like I was doing, when I've got a calm, strong center, I can see the situation, and I might even get a little bit ruffled, but it will not last. I'll be able to quickly come back to my calm, strong core. People might not behave the way I'd like them to. There might even be disturbing memories that come, or, other things or thoughts that disturb me. But when I've got a calm, strong core, a peaceful core, then it's like an anchor that I can come back to, and quickly. So I will find that even if I fluctuate a little bit, even if there's a little bit of disturbance, it's not as intense as my calm, strong core becomes stronger. Those upheavals or disturbances won't be as intense, and they won't last as long. I'm able to come back to my own peace quicker. So peaceful life. Stuff is always going to happen. We can't change that. But at our center, to be calm and peaceful and strong, it's an inner stability. And happiness, a happy life. We all want a happy life. And to find purpose and to find meaning in our lives. And I think for many, there's a secret that many have discovered, that to really find purpose and meaning in the life, that I'll be doing something that's greater than me. I'll be part of something that's greater than me. And, people who volunteer know that. People who help other people, whether it's in work or voluntary work or just in a social circle, people who help others know that the satisfaction that we get when we help another. And when I'm helping others, when I'm doing that, from a karmic perspective, it's like an instant return because I feel good about myself when I'm helping somebody else. It makes me feel good that I'm doing something that's worthwhile. And many people choose to work in the helping industries. I do that in my worldly job. I'm in the helping industries, and what's become very apparent for people who are in helping industries, and just to give you an example of the sorts of jobs I'm talking about there, it might be someone who's a social worker or someone who's a counsellor or someone who's a teacher. You know, there's lots of helping professions. And if I'm working in the helping industries, there's a real disease that's infested the helping industries, the helping professions. And sometimes it's described as compassion fatigue. And what it's all about is people burn out. Why? Because they give and give and give, and they end up emptying out. There's nothing more to give. There's nothing inside. So it's so essential, you know, because really what does this come from? It's kindness. It's coming from a place of kindness. And of course, that's coming from our desire to help other people. It comes from love. And so it speaks to the deepest part of ourselves. So with these helping professions and people who like to help, and I'm sure all of you would count yourselves amongst that number, it's so important that we're replenishing ourselves, that we're replenishing our stock. And so a good sound spiritual practice will help with that. Regular meditation, spending time reflecting, reviewing, filling up on my inner resources so that I have more to give. Because otherwise I will empty out and then I'll burn out. So a regular spiritual practice will really help to fill up the stock. And then I've got a flow happening. I can keep giving, I keep filling up, and it's a beautiful flow. And also for contentment, the third one about love. And really this is love for the self. So I mentioned it before, but when I feel good about who I am, when I have respect and regard for myself, it's such an important thing because, you know, for many of us, we'll be very, very critical of ourselves, much more critical of ourselves than we would be of anyone else. But to be able to treat ourselves with that kindness, treat ourselves with that respect, and it's a starting point, and it's a springboard that when I can really treat myself well, because we do deserve it, we all deserve it. When I can treat myself that way, naturally I'll find that the love that I start to cultivate for myself flows, and it's easier to be loving towards others. It's easier to see the best in them rather than, you know, seeing the worst of them. It's easier to be kind and gentle and forgiving. And it starts from ourselves. Do that to ourselves. And when I bring these things into my life, peace and happiness and love in this way, then contentment is a result. And as I say, this has just been my tuning and my thinking about this aspect of contentment in the last few days. So sure, there's much more that could be said about contentment and how do we achieve it. I do think it's a very active thing. Contentment's not that I'm content and then that's it, I've stopped. Contentment's active. I continue. So that's a question. You know, when I'm doing this planning, is what I'm planning going to make me content? And we're about to actually just take a moment to actually set your promise, but just before we do it, about setting my sights too high, because sometimes when we're setting a goal, we'll want to turn ourselves around, do a 360, and it's really hard to do that. If I want to completely change myself, that's hard work because we tend to, as human beings, as mortals, we change slowly and gradually. And that's how permanent change tends to go. If we try to do it too fast, it becomes difficult, and often we'll find we fail, and then we get disheartened. So really, it's a good idea to either build on something that I've already been working on, or some success that I've already had, or aim to move towards that big thing I want to achieve with small increments. So make a smaller goal that's going to move me in the right direction. Like me, wanting just to feel better, wanting to have less anger. And it was a gradual thing. And it worked. It did work. That gross anger's gone. So we've talked a lot. I've talked a lot. So now let's have a little bit of reflection. And it's time now to set your promise. So just take a few moments. Think of the thing that you'd like to promise yourself. And again, this may be something that you want to take away and work on after this session. I'm really putting you on the spot to ask you to do it straight away, but for some of you, it might have been bubbling up and might have been ready to be written or ready to come front of mind. So it may be something you find that you're working on after. Fine either way. And if you've done it or you're making a promise to yourself to make a promise, either way, whether you've already made the promise or you're making a promise that you're going to do it later, either way, this promise is a very safe bet for you if you keep it to yourself. So a promise that I keep to myself, if I break that promise to myself, I'm the only one that knows. So to really, if I really mean this, if it's really important enough to me, I will make a pledge. And what I mean by that, I'll tell someone else, because then I'm accountable. Then I know there's another set of eyes on me to see whether I achieve this or not. And with the promise I made to myself in India all those years ago about anger, I came back from India and I said to my son, maybe it was a bit rash, I said to my son, who was in his late teens at that time, I said, I've made a promise that I'm going to overcome anger. And I think he was a bit skeptical that that was possible. And what used to happen after that was he would remind me every time he saw any form of the slightest irritation or resentment or any upheaval in me, he'd say, I thought you said you were overcoming anger. I thought you said Brahmins don't get angry. So it really made me stick to my promise and honour what I'd said. And I did. I worked on it and worked hard on it too. And actually, I had great success. So if you really mean it, take that step of courage and tell someone else what you're going to do. And now we've got a promise, or we've got a promise to make a promise. So now, how do I achieve it? And, at the very beginning, we did the reflection exercise. And this is what you really, if you really mean this, if it's something that's really important to you, you will every day check in. Every single day. You won't miss a day, because checking in every day lets me know if I'm on track. So think of those 3 questions we had at the beginning. Every day, at the end of every day, I can ask myself those 3 questions. What have I achieved today? What have I learned today? And what can I let go? So what have I achieved towards my goal? What have I learned? And the last one, what will I let go? And that's really important, because as we move forward with our promise, because we'll make mistakes. We're mortals. We'll make mistakes. There'll be days, we'll have great days, we'll have bad days. And the day that I don't do so well, when I'm checking in, it's likely I'll be disappointed with myself. So rather than that disappointment bubbling and growing and turning into guilt and shame and disheartenment, learn from it and let go and keep going. And because seriously, two wrongs don't make a right. If I'm disappointed and then I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling guilty, then I've got something else I've got to work on. So another problem, really. So why do that? Acknowledge it, learn, take the learning, don't repeat the mistake, but let it go. Don't keep thinking about it. Keep moving. One of the best pieces of spiritual advice I've ever been given in all the years, and it's one that I keep coming back to again and again and again, is keep moving forward. One foot in front of the other, and that's every single day. Just keep moving forward. So that checking in is really, really important. And with that, the achievements, because often we'll focus on the things that went wrong, but it's so important to celebrate the achievements and pat yourself on the back. Look what I've done today. Look how great this is. And really, really acknowledge the great things that you've done every single day, because that acknowledgement, that positivity will help to move you forward too. Now, this is all great theory, but, sometimes we're not as good as we would like to be. Sometimes we don't live up to the things that we would like to do. And sometimes we know what's best, but our heart's telling us something different. We're hurting inside for whatever reason. It's really, really difficult to achieve what we want to do. And at those times, maybe we'll turn to someone for help. And look, I had to be honest, I had a situation a week ago where I really was going through a bit of a storm, and it was all internal. It was about something that's going on in my life at the moment, but I was having a lot of internal upheaval about it. And I could have done a lot of things at that time. I mentally, intellectually, I knew what to do, but my heart was singing a different tune, and I just couldn't clear it. And I could have turned to someone and asked some advice. I could have turned to someone like Jackie, or I could have turned to someone like Larry and asked them for advice. And I'm sure they would have given me good advice. But frankly, as much as I respect both of them, they too are mortals like I'm a mortal. And so a practice that I do, that Brahmins do, that many of you, I hope, may have experimented with and be doing as well, is turning to a higher power. And of course, that's something that we do here a lot. And the higher power we're talking about is God. We have an affectionate name that you may well know, is Baba. And we use this affectionate name for God because we're not talking about a distant relationship here. We're talking about a close personal relationship. That's part of what we do in this practice. We develop a close relationship with God. And Baba, this higher being, this higher power, I see as a companion on my journey. And so what I did last week, when I really was in a bad way, actually, and I just couldn't work it out for myself, I couldn't see beyond the problems my heart was giving me, was I just actually gave up and sat quietly, stopped trying to work it out, and just allowed some space and invited this divine companion into the space to work with me, to sort it out. And it took a little while, of course, this is in meditation, and it took a little while. I was still feeling really churned up. There was a lot of emotion flowing, but it did subside. and I became quiet. And in that silence, I could really feel the presence of my companion. And with that presence and in that quietness, two answers actually came to me. One, which I sort of knew, but the other one that I didn't expect. And it was something, and that's how I know that it came from him or the companion, because it wasn't something that I would have come up with. But it was absolutely right. And it was absolutely what was needed. And so in the week that's passed since that happened, the situation's still here, still dealing with the situation, but in a completely different way. And all this problem I was facing, it's gone, it's just gone. And so calling on help from the one who has the means to provide assistance at times, it doesn't mean that it's a magic wand. We have to have an active part in this process, and we have to open the space to invite that one in. We have to be willing for that. We have to be open for it. But when we do, help is at hand. So, when we're having bad days, when things aren't going right, don't give up, because there is help at hand. So the outcome can't become before the effort. And this is another thing with spiritual endeavour. We don't reach the outcome. We don't just become automatically peaceful or automatically happy. There's effort that we work towards that. And the issue in the world today is instant gratification. We're wanting happiness now, right now. And we do get it, but it's temporary. So it won't last. So this is the thing to understand, that it is a gradual process and incremental steps towards what it is that I want to achieve. And I'll notice a difference. And this is important, because what I'll find is that as I move along this path towards what I want, the goal might change. So for me, with the anger thing, once that anger really started to burn off, I was feeling better. That's what I'd wanted. So I thought, well, I'm not stopping now. Let me aim for the next thing now. And the next thing I could see in my sights was happiness. And so I was able to better aim for that. But I couldn't have done that at the beginning. I couldn't even see it. So the journey will take us in a different direction. So this is why the reflection is so important, because we'll need to adjust our goals to fit in with our journey, where we're up to on the journey. But also important to stop. Don't go too fast. If I'm skimming, if I'm going too fast, what I'll find is there's no depth in the change. There's no depth in the achievement. So I also need to give myself time to really absorb the changes that are happening, give myself, if you like, time to consolidate and then move on. So don't rush it. This journey is a beautiful journey. It doesn't need to be rushed. And actually, the joy's in the journey. And look, the final thing I wanted to mention was just about habits, and developing helpful habits are really essential to achieve what I want to achieve. And of course, you all know one of the most important habits we talk about here is meditation. So a regular practice of meditation, a regular practice of reflection, a regular practice of whatever spiritual enrichment it is that I'm doing will really help me to achieve that I want to achieve. And when I say regular, it's not once a week or a couple of times a week. Regular means it's part of my daily routine. It's a not negotiable part of my day. So when I do that, then I'm really doing everything I can to create success in my life. And really, you could say that success is guaranteed because I'm giving myself every chance. So anyway, some thoughts for the new year, and hopefully there's been something that's been useful. And if there's any questions. Jackie might be looking there to see if there's any questions. She might even have some questions herself.
Oops, sorry, Angie, I was having trouble unmute.
Oh, good.
That's wonderful, and certainly appreciate your bringing your own personal experiences into it too, because it always makes it so real for people. And sometimes, we spiritual adventurists, if you like, can seem like we're on a goody-goody two-shoes journey, and upheavals and challenges are there too. But there's plenty of humor. We keep a balance, so we do have a lot of fun as well. I was thinking when you said that you sat and you had that kind of created that relationship situation and had a chat with, as we call the Supreme Soul, God, Baba, that personal chat. Then I was thinking, it's so interesting because you were then drawing on those core qualities, the core qualities that you mentioned in now making the promise, but also the core qualities of that individual, that Supreme Soul, the core qualities of that soul. And so they matched. And so when your solution came, I guess, because you didn't tell us that, and you don't need to, I promise, it matched one of your core qualities. And so for you, it was real, and you could say, wow, yes, that's it. And so what's the advice then? I was thinking about keeping those core qualities alive in us. You've given a hint, you've given us the perception of when we make a promise, make it in small bits. And indeed, that's probably what the Brahma Kumaris teach, to make small bits and not to get disheartened. So obviously shall I stop? But you understand where I'm going. Obviously, the decision you made was something that resonated so well with you. So it was so clever of that individual to hit the spot, we say, that yes, yes, right.
And
how can we share that?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really fantastic question, Jackie, because with the answer that came, the unexpected answer that came, it was so obvious when it came. Actually, it was so. Why didn't I think of that? I was blocked. But when it came, it really spoke to happiness, actually. And that I was blocking myself from happiness in a certain way, because I was thinking that something belonged to me that didn't belong to me. And that's what the answer was about. It was me trying to hold on to something that actually wasn't mine to have. And it didn't. So it didn't mean that I can't enjoy this thing or I can't make use of this thing, but it's not mine. And it was because I was being a bit possessive about this particular thing that was the issue. And when that became clear, I thought, wow, I'm free. I'm free, and continue to be free. I didn't lose anything by letting go of this possessiveness. In fact, I gained a lot. So it was around. That's what it was around.
Okay, so it wasn't your problem anymore. Actually, where you were feeling about it was your problem, but the situation itself wasn't your problem anymore. It's actually not yours anyway.
No. So it was a double benefit. I didn't feel bad about it, and then the problem wasn't mine either. You're right. That's right. So it was very freeing.
Very nice for sharing. Okay, Angie, somebody's come. First question is, how do we prevent ourselves from falling back on our old habits? Oh, it's a doozy. And thank you, Angie, for your insights. A question, do you have any tips for letting go of past mistakes? Okay, so the first one's how do you stop falling back on the old habits?
Mhm.
So, and then the other one, next one is how do you forgive yourself for past mistakes?
So the habits is new habits, is replacing the old habits with new habits, I guess. And that's a very trite answer, actually. So let me expand a little bit, because habits, as human beings, we are creatures of habit. That's how we operate. We do the same things day in, day out. So developing habits, I think my personal experience, it's awareness, keeping in awareness what I'm doing. And if I want to change a habit, I need to be absolutely alert to what I'm doing, aware and alert. So I'm alert to what I'm doing. I'm aware of the effect it's having on me. So those two things. And look, when I'm looking to change something, these are the two things I keep asking myself. I'm doing this, how's it make me feel? I'm doing this, how's it make me feel? And whenever I'm not feeling good, then there's my indicator. Hang on, check, change, check, change. It's a constant thing. And it's actually this awareness, it stays for a while. It's almost mechanical that you've got to keep it. It's a step-by-step thing for a little while you cement the new habit. But when you start to bring the changing habit in, the better habit, so when you're checking and you're aware and alert and you're checking, you start to think, oh, I'm feeling a bit better. Oh, I'm feeling a bit better. And there's a repeat of that. So you're repeating the habit, and gradually that repetition will embed the new habit. But you can't just do it once and hope it's going to stick. You need to do it again and again and again, and then it will start to stick, and then it becomes automatic. So it's about like thinking a positive thought. If you've been thinking waste thoughts for all your life, you won't automatically start thinking positive thoughts from thought one of a positive thought. You need to be consciously, what sort of thought, asking yourself the question, what is this? Is this a positive thought or is it a waste thought? And as I start to see the change, I'll feel better, I'll feel the benefit. And the feeling is so important here too, because it's how I'm feeling. When I'm starting to feel better, that's going to have its own momentum to move me forward. And it will become automatic. So, it is mechanical, it is the work to start, but it's such worthwhile work. So I think the investment's well worth the outcome.
And can I just comment on that before you go on to the next question? Because I'm remembering too, I was there at that meeting when we talked about the new year kind of suggestions about contentment. And one of the things about not feeling contented was there wasn't a feeling of an attainment was the word used, but you've used the word benefit. So there wasn't a feeling of benefit or outcome from what I'd done to change. So there wasn't any contentment. So mainly that was the thing that we feel let down. We don't feel any, benefit. I think that's just what you've said.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because it's hard, if we can't see that there's an attainment or a benefit, then it's just hard work. Why would I bother? So actually, I need to be able to keep that awareness and that consciousness in front. That am I achieving what I'm hoping to achieve? Am I getting closer to that? And that attainment might just be feeling happy. Yes. Whatever the attainment is, it might just be that I feel good, Yes. That's a great attainment. If I feel happy, that's a fabulous attainment. So if I can feel happy all the time, that's a really rich person who can do that.
All right, the second question then. How do I have any tips on, is it letting go of past mistakes? Yes, any tips of letting go of past mistakes?
So we've all made them, and we've all made lots of mistakes. And looking back over our lives, we, can see very clearly if we focus on it, if we focus on the past, if we have a lack of love for ourselves, that's what we'll do. We'll focus on the mistakes that we've made. We'll focus on the things that we wish we could undo. And something that I find very useful is, in order to be able to live with what I've done, I need to understand that whatever I did at that time, I was doing the best I could do with what I knew at that time. And whatever I was doing, it was still speaking to the core qualities. I was looking for peace or happiness or love, maybe in the wrong way, but ultimately I was somehow trying to fulfill myself. And if it didn't, if I was going about it the wrong way, it didn't turn out well. I was doing the best with what I had at that time. Now I know something different. And so if I were to have that same situation again, I would do it differently. So I can forgive myself from back then, knowing that I am not that same person as I was back then. I'm a different person now. So with understanding and love and letting go of the need to punish myself, because I think for many of us, this is a very deep habit that we have of seeking to, feeling the need to punish ourselves, feeling that we should be punished, that we deserve punishment, because actually at the core of all of us is goodness, and it's even in the one that doesn't think it's there at all, it's there. So I really have to start to have some faith in myself that at the core of my being is goodness. And when I was doing these things that weren't accurate or didn't turn out well, or even if I was doing them from a place of anger or hate or whatever it was, I was still trying to do the best I could, somehow trying to survive. But now I know different. So knowing this core of goodness that exists within me, let me forgive that person that I once was, because I'm not that person now, but I'm this person now, and I can move forward and be an even better person.
That's just wonderful, wonderful wisdom there, Angie. And can I just reflect on one of the easy methods is that the Anthony Strano reflection or meditation commentary, we call it, that we have in the beginning. He goes through the very first half of it is to go into the depths of this peace and into this pool of peace. And out of that, after you've spent so many minutes going into it and experiencing that pool of peace, out of that he says, I will feel respect for myself. And I guess this is what we're after when we say love yourself. I will respect and I will accept and I will feel peaceful. So it's there's method in these kind of thoughts that are in these reflections to come to an experience, isn't it?
And I mean, Anthony was such a great student of this study, and had such a depth of understanding of the workings of it. It's a simple study, but the application of it touches the very core of ourselves. And you're right, because when we do that, we're actually emerging the bits that are covered up. The best of us, it's all covered up. So that internal vision will allow us to see what's the beauty that's inside, and come to terms with it. And it also really allows us to start to feel that we're worth something, and to have a sense of my own. I don't mean importance in the way like an egotistical way, but that I am a worthy and worthwhile person, and I have an important role to play, but I am an important person. I'm certainly an important person in the Supreme Soul's eyes, and it helps me to become worthy in my own eyes, I think. So those reflections and understanding of myself is so much more than this physical body, because this wears out and changes, and wrinkles up and all those things. But the soul, the shining light inside, that just gets brighter. The more of this sort of attention that I give to my spiritual self, the more brightly I'll shine.
I like that point. We go back to the beginning of your reflection, your experience to change your attitudes. You said your goal was just to feel better. So you felt better. So, and the warning was not to put huge expectations, to start with little ones. So this question that says, how do I let go of past mistakes? Start to remind yourself of, as you're saying, remind yourself of that goodness within with a very simple exercise, as Anthony does with us, to find that peace. And he says, oh my gosh, I'm feeling peaceful. You begin to believe that changes are possible. There is another question. So that was the past mistakes. And there's a lot of appreciation of your wisdom, Angie, so it's coming through. This is someone saying, I try very much to practice meditation daily, but if I miss a day, I feel guilty. Now, how can I overcome my busyness that doesn't allow meditation into my life? So they're looking for some kind of method. How you go?
My life's pretty busy. I know Jackie's life's very busy. And I think it's about prioritizing, because life is busy and busyness doesn't go away. But when I prioritize, and I'll prioritize when I really experience the benefits. So I think to prioritize meditation, I can tell you it's priority number one for me. It's the not negotiable thing in my day. I set meditation times in the day that they are not negotiable. And that priority is because I know the benefit of them. So it's really, I think you need to experience the benefit of it. We can tell you there's benefit. You need to experience it. And look, busyness, a good question to ask yourself about busyness is how much of that busyness is essential busyness? Because sometimes we can make ourselves busy in ways that distract us, or take us away from the main game, will move us away. So it's really worth checking on busyness. It's actually a word that I've made a little promise to myself that I'm not using anymore. I don't use that word busy anymore. I have a lot to do, but I don't use busy because it sort of feels like, sometimes it feels like an excuse for not doing things. So this is just personal, but I think it's very good to check in with yourself and ask what's most important.
What about how would you do a sign of awareness, like a reflection on the move? So maintaining an awareness of something. Or you have traffic control, of course, at that time. So there's awareness of, if I'm experiencing peace, then something like, how can I do that on the move?
And even like if you've got a really full day, like I know sometimes, I'll be working away and, 8 hours of work, and how do you have that moment of inward focus? Set an alarm, do something really practical, set an alarm on your phone, or put a reminder on your computer, a little star or something on your computer that reminds you just to stop. So set whatever works for you, set a reminder. I think, we've got these amazing phones that will do all sorts of things. Set an alarm on your phone, a little ping. Or when you're on a call waiting for somebody to talk to you, use that time for meditation. If you're waiting for something to load on your computer, use that time, turn inwards. You can't do anything else at that time, turn inwards. Take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. When I'm making a cup of tea, waiting for the kettle to boil, use that time for meditation. When I'm cooking a meal, stirring the pot, use that time for meditation. Find the opportunities in the day, they'll present. When I'm walking to the shops, use that time for meditation.
Fantastic. There is one here, and I have to kind of go off screen to see it. Thank you, Angie, for sharing about your past anger and other experiences. It really helps hearing of you having these issues and getting through them. your message on giving up, on trying to solve issues, being still and silence and receiving the help from Baba is really powerful. Oh, this was an appreciation one. Thank you, Angie. So we might call it time for reflection. So will we close with a meditation, Angie? Okay, thank you. And thank you for everybody. Happy New Year and all that involves for each one of you and whatever that brings up. And we'll see you again next Monday. And we're here, but we can't invite you in yet. But if you want to contact us, we're by phone or by email, we're here. So enjoy your time. So over to you, Angie.
So I take a moment now to allow my body to settle, to allow my mind to settle. Lots of information maybe flowing through my mind. Just for now, I allow the mind to become quiet and relaxed and still. And my still, quiet mind is like an open doorway through which I can step into the deeper part of myself. My vision is turned away from the outside world and inward to my inner world. And my inner world presents unlimited possibilities. I just allow myself to become quiet and still on the inside. My thoughts are few. My feelings are calm. And my cool mind and calm heart open the door a little further so I can go deeper within. Deep inside me, at the core of my being, is a center of light I allow myself to move into the very center of my being. I am light. The body I wear is just a costume. The parts I play in the world, like being in a play or a movie. But the inner light, this is my true identity. I am light. I am a being of light. I am a soul. And my original and eternal nature is of peace and happiness. Love is my state of being. In my original state, I have a right to these qualities. They belong to me. And to claim my right, I must hold them in my awareness. Hold peace and love and happiness close in my heart. Cherish them. Nurture them. Develop them. Make use of them. And bring them into my practical life. Let me set my goals and my aims aligned to peace and love and happiness. And as I move forward, I will see change, and my light will become more and more bright. So let me commit to my promise. Let me have faith in myself that I can achieve what I wish to achieve, that it is in my power for my light to shine so brightly that it dazzles. Om Shanti. Good night, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Angie. Om Shanti, everyone. Good night. Good night, everyone.